Michael, last week you briefly mentioned a possible non-evil motive for the TPP, something about a strategic security move against the Chinese.
Oh, that might be evil. I'm just saying, people. I was more interpreting as people were saying, is there anything else in it besides just sort of?
Well, that's what I think we talked about this with Mike Consul too. I mean,
yeah,
the idea is
about that, Mike Consul, yeah.
And I think I said this last week. Maybe I didn't, but when I went out to L.A., and this is what it's been about for a long time, about the Chinese, there is also a corresponding move with our Navy right now. When I went out to L.A., I got held over. I stayed down in San Pedro, I think I told people. I've since learned how to pronounce it. And I went on a tour of the USS Iowa that is down there at the docks. And at one point, it shows the movements of the U.S. fleet through the years. And it's sort of fascinating to see at what eras we have where you could see it was perceived by our government, where our national interests, where we needed to be intimidating to the rest of the world, essentially. Right now, there's a big move to move most of our fleet to the Pacific. And it is theoretically to isolate China. This TPP is supposedly to isolate China. We're going to get all of these countries on board. This is an open platform deal. In other words, the idea is to keep collecting countries to sign on to this deal down the road. And the idea is that it's to protect, who knows? The argument is to protect the IP for Hollywood and pharmaceutical companies, and it's to maintain U.S. economic dominance against the rising threat of China. Now, the irony is, of course, is that China... I was talking to a guy from Jamaica the other day who came and gave me my physical for some extra life insurance. And he said, down in Jamaica now, everything is Chinese. And you hear these stories from people from Africa, from Latin America, all around the globe. It is the Chinese coming in and building the infrastructure. And because they have no problem in providing aid to countries and to building these relationships.
Well, they have this...
And so ostensibly what we're going to do is, gain control of the shipping lanes. I mean, I don't know what the theory is at the highest levels of paranoia that exist in this country, but the idea that China would shut down a shipping lane is like the idea that I would shoot myself in the face so that you have to look at somebody ugly. Honestly, it's like, you're going to, I think you're going to be feeling pretty uncomfortable when you have to look at this face every day at work after I blow my face off.
That actually would be pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
So just watch out, buddy, or I'll do it. This is a long-term. Okay. This is a long-term. And I've told the story many times about that Gary Hart, where Lynn Cheney came in front of the Hart-Rudman 21st century threats to America, and it was all Chinese. They are obsessed with Chinese, the neocons. And much of what we did in the Middle East, I think, is a function of that fear of China. But what's the value? I mean, what's the value? And there was a piece in the Times. At global economic gathering, U.S. primacy is seen as ebbing. What difference does it make? I mean, honestly, if we're going to, this is like a classic, we've got to burn down the village to save it, right? I mean, if we're going to allow corporations to essentially blackmail us or extort money out of us every time we want to have workers' protection, we want to have environmental protections, we want to have consumer protections. What is the value? And this supposed trade deal has very little about tariffs or anything like that. It's all about protecting Hollywood intellectual property for 75 years after the author is dead. I mean, honestly, like, what is the value of it? So, and I think that probably what happens is the Obama administration comes in. This thing has already been partially negotiated by the Bush administration. The Obama administration continues it because it is part of a grand strategic notion of isolating China, or at least, I guess, sort of like counterbalancing China. And that becomes the narrative in the White House. Like, we're going to counterbalance China by empowering our corporations to ultimately just screw the American public and to be fair, other countries.